Too much, too quick, and too soon. In the past 10 years, I've seen over 3,000 cases of wrist and hand injuries, with over half of them coming from gaming. And the number one reason why gamers develop wrist pain is because they play too much, too quickly, within a short period of time. And this is also what happened with AJ, a recent gamer I worked with who spent a weekend playing 12 hours each day, and with aim training and FPS games, specifically Overwatch, taking up a majority of those hours. In this video, I'm going to be going over why this can lead to problems and how I helped AJ get back to playing upwards of 5 hours of gaming with minimal discomfort in 6 weeks. This means there's too much stress on the hands through gaming within a short period of time without having the endurance of the muscles of the wrist and hand to be able to handle it. For example, the endurance that you have to be able to handle 4 hours of aim training. And yes, I know that's a lot. That's far higher than the actual capacity that you can handle. And this is and was the case with AJ. And based on our work with gamers, here are some situations that can often lead to the development of some pain. 1, there's a new patch drop and you're playing more to learn the new meta most quickly. 2, the start of a new season and wanting to grind to have your rank. 3, having some time off from work and spending a large part of that time gaming with your friends. 4, a new game is released and you want to grind that game as much as possible. And 5, starting a new aim training program. There are a lot more situations, but the underlying theme is that there's a lot of use of the wrist and hand without breaks that exceed the typical amount you perform on a regular basis. Here's a visual of this idea and concept along with some examples. Let's start with individual number 1. Let's say on average, a gamer spends 3 to 4 hours gaming after a day of work, which typically involves 6 to 8 hours of typing. The stress on the hands will vary depending on what game is being played. OSU and aim training are very different than Valorant. And in the image above, and we'll say that 3 to 4 hours is equivalent to around 700 stress units. This is a made up unit, but represents the stress on our tissues. A new patch for the game that this individual is playing dropped, so he decided to play more. However, this individual didn't really have enough time after work or on the weekends to play any more than 3 to 4 hours. And he was fortunate because this led to a more gradual increase in the amount of time that he was playing each day after work. And while he did have some 5-hour gaming days, he naturally had some schedule restrictions that limited him from playing 2 5-hour days in a row. This was helpful in avoiding too much stress on his wrists and hands over a short period of time. And this gradual increase of load avoids irritating this individual's tissue and reduces risk of developing injuries. But not everyone is so lucky in being able to gradually increase their physical load, and many times you might decide to play longer hours without considering your health. And this is the case with individual number 2. So this individual also spends 3 to 4 hours gaming after work, typing again for 6 to 8 hours. And unlike individual number 1, this person has a lot more free time after work and on the weekends. And this allows him to play upwards of 10 to 12 hours a day on the weekends. And with the release of the new patch, individual 2 really wanted to learn the meta as quickly as possible. So he spent the weekend playing up to 10 to 12 hours each day, and he did not intentionally rest or deload the next day, which means playing a little less after a big day of playing or high volume of playing. And with this significant increase in gaming volume, it led to some irritation of his wrist and hand. And this pain not only prevented him from gaming the 3 to 4 hours after work, but started to affect his ability to use his wrist and hands to type at work. Individual 2 describes AJ, as well as many of the gamers, pro and casual, that we've worked with. AJ reached out to me due to pain he had in 3 major regions of his hands. P1, the pinky side of his wrist, this nagging 3 to 4 out of 10 discomfort at rest. P2, the back side of the hand with a 1 to 2 out of 10 sensation of sensitivity. And P3, the palm side of the wrist with intermittent discomfort and was really less of a concern. With P1 and P2, he reported after 2 hours of gaming, he would feel around a 6 out of 10 of pain, and that sensitivity would last the rest of the day. He also reported that even typing at work for 30 minutes would cause 6 out of 10 of pain that would prevent him from being able to take notes for his clients. And this pain would fortunately reduce after an hour. And as I described earlier, all of this began after he played for an extended period of time over a weekend while also trying to figure out a different position of his keyboard. And this is what we were able to find after the initial evaluation. He had poor endurance of the wrist extensors and flexors, specifically the ECU, FDS, FDP, and ED. He had poor endurance of his wrist extensors and flexors. His endurance level was considered 50% of what individuals who can handle 8 to 12 hours of typing and gaming combined without pain. And if you think of it like a health bar, he had only around 500 HP when he needed around 1,000 to be able to handle 8 to 12 hours a day. And this reduced capacity or HP put him at risk for irritating his tendons and tissues. We also found poor schedule management, which means gaming for long periods of time without breaks and without consideration of intensity. So lots of hours of Kovacs, which is really high intensity, and Overwatch, which can also be high intensity. Too much, too quick, and too soon. He still maintained some level of gaming, but felt it wasn't enjoyable due to his pain. He also took a lot more breaks now due to the discomfort. And during the weekdays, he would only try to play 2 hours after work. And on the weekends, while he's able to get up to a total of around 6-ish hours, he has to split it up because of the pain. We also found suboptimal ergonomics. Not as much of a contributing factor, but without a palm rest, it could lead to slight increases of stress on the left-sided muscles. And remember, the purpose of ergonomics is to reduce the stress per unit time of using the hands, so adding a palm rest can reduce HP lost while you're playing. AJ also expressed some concerns about his posture, which is more forward head position, and while he didn't have neck issues, he really didn't like how it looked. And so based on these contributing factors, we designed a program to resolve each of these impairments. And number one was an exercise program that was focused on addressing the specific muscles and tendons involved. And this was the specific program prescribed for him. And as you can see, the central focus was on exercises of the wrist and hand with some foundational exercises targeting his forward head posture. And he was advised to perform the stretches throughout his day as a way to restore his HP. Number two, we made some ergonomic and postural changes. We added a palm rest to help reduce the relative extension of the wrist to reduce the activity of the extensors, that top side of the hand in P1 and P2. I let him know that this will likely allow him to use his left hand a little bit longer without experiencing pain, maybe 30 to 60 more minutes due to the improved biomechanics. Because AJ also had that aggressive forward head position, we set a side quest to improve this resting position with the goal of having others notice his improved posture as a measure of progress. And to improve his posture, we not only integrated the exercises, but we created rules throughout the day where he would remind himself to assume a more upright posture. More of the cue of chest up, chin tucked, and shoulders tilted back so that he can remember during some of these moments. 1, after every single client that he worked with. 2, whenever he walked through a doorway. And 3, in between each of his games. We also integrated a return to gaming plan or a load management plan. And with one of his primary goals being to return to high level gaming, it was important that we establish some intentional changes during this activity. During the first week, we reduced his overall gaming by 1 hour on the weekdays and 2 hours on the weekends. So 1 hour total on the weekdays, around 4 to 6 hours total on the weekends with breaks. And we did this since we added load through his exercise program, which was prescribed at 2 times a day. And I asked him to track his hours of gaming so we could gradually increase it with each week. Now, before I talk about his progress after 3 and 6 weeks, if you guys are looking for a solution that actually does what I did with AJ, assesses his current level of function, determines his endurance, determines what he's doing, and prescribes you a program based on that level of capacity and tells you what you need to do every single day, in addition to how much you should be gaming and typing and using your hands, then please check out our troubleshooter. There are free plans for every single pain region that you can get in the link below. In 3 weeks, AJ reported he was about 40% improved. And he was able to achieve this even after not being able to perform his exercises for about a week because he was sick. And he noticed progress in each of these regions. Instead of feeling a 6 out of 10 after 2 hours of gaming that would last the rest of the day, he now only felt 3 to 4 out of 10, and it only lasted for 1.5 hours. And at 3 weeks, he was also able to handle his entire day of typing with only a 2 out of 10, with no lingering pain instead of 30 minutes before. P2 seemed to already completely resolve after 3 weeks, technically 2, of doing his exercises. And as a bonus, AJ also noticed that he was more naturally maintaining this upright position both while working and gaming. And during these 3 weeks, AJ tracked his gaming hours, which we progressively increased as he noticed improvements with his function and his exercises. So week 1, he was around 16.5 hours total. Week 2, 19.5 hours total. And week 3, 24 hours. So even with the increase in overall gaming, his function was improving. And this gave us the confidence to really push, to really stress test how much his wrists and hands could actually handle for longer sessions and more intense sessions. After 6 weeks, he was about more than 90% resolved. By week 4, he said he was already reporting no discomfort with all of his work activities and being able able to handle higher intensities and durations of gaming, reintegrating around 15 to 30 minutes of Kovacs each day. And so by week 6, he was near 100% and even felt confident enough to go forest climbing, which I have no idea what that is, but it did ultimately lead to some soreness that lasted a few days. And at this point, he was able to handle a 3-hour intensive session of Kovacs, along with not really feeling limited at all from being able to play longer sessions. And when I actually re-evaluated AJ at this point, we found he had an improved approach for managing his schedule. He would take more breaks, more intentional with planning, and deloading after longer days. He built up his wrist endurance. He reached around 80% of normal wrist endurance, which was enough for his individual goals. Not only this, he had also integrated the exercises as a natural part of his day for continued prevention. And of course, he improved his environment and postural habits. With more breaks, he was able to focus more on making the positive adjustments to his posture. We also achieved his side quest. Others did notice that he was sitting more upright and with less forward head. Now, what can you learn from this? One of the reasons I decided to share this case was to highlight how playing too much, how playing too quickly, and how playing too soon over a short period of time is one of the most common reasons why gamers develop injuries. And by working on the endurance of your wrist and hand muscles, you can build up your HP or tolerance to handle higher volumes of play. But even in a case where you might irritate the tissues, the path to recovery is hopefully very clear to you now. You don't need to rest. Tissues will get weaker since you aren't addressing the underlying cause. You can start exercises right away. You can scale the exercises to your level of endurance and modify your activity, not eliminate it. You can consider how you're approaching your gaming schedule. Are you taking breaks? Are you adding some stretches during some of the natural downtimes? Are you intentionally playing a little less after a longer day? And of course, optimizing your setup. Sometimes your ergonomics can lead to more stress per unit time. And so small changes can also provide benefit to how much your wrists and hands can handle during your sessions. And now that you can recognize these type of situations better, hopefully you can better prepare yourselves for them. So build up your endurance so you can handle the next patch, new game, vacation without putting yourselves at risk for injury. And again, if you don't know where to start and want to get a plan based on these specific muscles and tendons that are involved, check out our troubleshooter. Or if you want to work with us directly to build a plan to resolve your issue, please apply below. But if you want to learn more about the signs of RSI, check out this video, some of our others right over here.